Another week, another episode closer to the end of Star Trek Discovery, and this week is a bit of a stationary side quest that sets up the next 2 weeks at least. And man, do we get a lot of DS9 references this week, and I mean a lot. We also get the return of Star Trek 2, which I'll get to, but as always, I'm Al, this is the Geek in Review. Thanks for taking the time to choose to watch this channel. If you haven't done it already, leave a like and subscribe as well. So Mol and Lok are under lock and key, and I mean Starfleet have caught them, which also means that the team now have the Romulan scientist diary from episode 1, and I bet you forgot about that, because I know that I did. Book wants to try and help with the interrogation, but Nan, who they haven't seen since last season, and let's be honest, they didn't really do anything with her then, but Nan is having none of it, and that's hard to say in this accent, so leave a like for that at least. Still injured, so how will Colbert help heal a Breen? Because the doctor on the Lockyer seemingly didn't do anything before they beamed over. And as they can't heal him because he's Breen, they mention that the Breen do need extreme cold in order to help them heal, which, Deep Space Nine reference, if you remember that, well done. But how did they know that? Because they seem to know so little about the Breen in this episode, and their kind of knowledge with what they know and they don't know does kind of fluctuate without. They arrive back at Federation HQ, and Admiral Vance wants Disco to go on the run, as the Breen know that Starfleet have Mol and Lok. Michael says this won't work, as the Breen will eventually plot out Discovery's spore jumps and catch them, but I'm going to get to that later on, just sit on it, just wait. So there's going to be a conference to try and keep the peace, and Burnham wants the ship to stay. She thinks that forcing the Breen to deal with the situation is the best way forward. Rayner is leading the negotiations, so I guess Saru's going to be back this week, at least you'd think, but no, sadly he's not, and it seems that the Breen are on the edge of a civil war and a little bit chaotic. The crew can't work out why this Breen fraction wants Lok so bad, and man, did the writers watch at least seasons 5 to 7 of Deep Space Nine, because from this point on, the entire episode is littered with Deep Space Nine references. Every other line is a Deep Space Nine reference by every other character, particularly Rayner in this episode. We get the old Romulan quote, "Don't turn your back on a Breen," mentions of the Dominion War again. It gets into some other things later on that I'll get to, but what did you think about all the Deep Space Nine lore, especially from the last few seasons in this episode? Let me know in the comments below. Burnham wants to interrogate Mol and Lok to get answers, and it turns out that Rayner has some history with the Breen, but doesn't want to go into it straight away, and actually backs down when he confronts Michael that she might be doing the wrong thing. And when I seen this, instantly thought, man, we're going to get some Rayner Star Trek this week, aren't we? And it's on its way, people, absolutely. But Stamets is still working on the next clue to the next side quest that they're definitely going to tie this tech into Stamets' arc somehow throughout the season, because he's the only one that seems to care about how important and life-changing it is. Burnham eventually realises that there's more to Lok than meets the eye, so the episode kinda turns into Succession pretty quickly, but for the Breen. Adira and Tilly are still working on the clue as well, and they need the original manuscript made by the last scientist to help solve the puzzle. And it turns out that Jet Reno is key to this, as she has experience with ancient manuscripts apparently. Why not at this stage? And she kind of turns into Han Solo in this episode, which I don't know how I feel about it. What do you think? Let me know. We find out through Jet that there's a mobile all-knowledge archive we've just never heard about before that still exists 900 years in the future. But as they work this all out, the Breen show up in a big ship, like a bigger ship than the Starbase, and Burnham recognises it from the future jumping episode as a ship that destroys the Starbase HQ, but they manage to buy some time to solve it all, but only give themselves an hour, so it also becomes a ticking clock episode as well. Burnham goes to Rayner for help, and it turns out his planet was a Breen outpost, so Star Trek incoming. They destroyed his world, killed his family, and he was the only survivor. And they've avoided Star Trek all season, but you knew that they'd bring it back, didn't you? Didn't you? Didn't you? They try and buy time by offering dilithium to the Breen and bargaining with them, and letting them know that there are other sides to this argument within the Breen fractions themselves. They know that the Breen can't attack without killing Lok and risk losing it all, so it becomes a big standoff. Then, at this point, the writing really does get a bit crap because they threaten to keep jumping Discovery so the Breen can't find them. And it's Michael that suggests this. But in the first 5 minutes of the episode, she told Vance that this idea wouldn't work because the Breen would work out how the jumps worked. So yeah, like, no one's really paying attention to this at this stage, are they? Anyway, Mol escapes with Nan going after her and Lok is dying, so they need a Breen medic to help try and save him. And Lok has a face-off, or at very least a mask-off with his uncle. This is all going on, Book is an engineer with Stamets trying to help him, but he decides to work out where Mol is and tells no one. Instead, he spends the next 5 minutes helping Stamets with a clue. Just call security, you prick. But Book needs to stay in engineering because it's an empathic clue, and you know as soon as they said Betazoid at the start of this episode, that was probably going to be on the cards. So Book uses his ability to locate the next clue, and the place that we see and that he describes sounds very familiar in like the Badlands where the Maquis operated from. You know, from the later seasons of Deep Space Nine. Anyway, Book eventually tells Nan where Mol is after waiting, which seems to be about 5 or 10 minutes at least. And also, when they find Mol, why do they not trap her behind a force field instead of having this standoff? It's so they can have a big second trauma trek dump speech from Book about loss, etc, etc, which of course works and changes Mol's mind, but Lok dies in the end anyway. But we find out that Mol and Lok are married, so she's basically now doing the whole crown thing, getting in on the throne. And she offers to hand over the progenitor's technology and lays out her evil plan in front of Burnham, Book, Colbert and a few others, because she thinks that whatever the progenitor's technology is, it's going to be able to bring Lok back from life. And remember that, because it's going to be very important in the season finale, because I guarantee they're going to kill someone only just to bring them back. And I hate to say it, but there's about 5 minutes where the Breen leave the starbase and just leave Mol there and give her time to transport over, and all the Starfleet people debate about what to do next. And if this is whole fate of the universe kind of stuff, I mean, why not just kill her? But the Breen want blood and Rayner wants to fire first, and again, he's not wrong. But 4 tiny Federation starships show up and that seems to be the standoff well stood off, and they just decide to hand her over. Anyway, the episode ends with them locating the mobile archive, and it turns out that it is on a path towards the Badlands. So yay for me for spotting that in amongst all Deep Space Nine references and Easter eggs in this episode, I guess. One of these writers definitely watched Deep Space Nine before this season started, you can tell that. But anyway, they know where they need to go to get the thing to find the thing, and the race is still on. But my question is, where the hell was Saru this week? They name dropped him and everything. And yeah, I guess Doug Jones was just doing another gig or has cashed out his Star Trek paychecks at the end of the day. I'm rich, bitch! While this was a marked improvement on last week's episode, it certainly wasn't a fantastic episode of Star Trek by any way, shape, means or form. There's only 2 or 3 episodes left to go at this point, and they're just stretching it out again. We did get a little bit more history in the Breen, but when you think about it, we didn't learn anything that we didn't already know from those seasons of Deep Space Nine, other than there's a royal family and they've got some trouble or strife, and we don't really care about it. At least I don't. If you do, that's absolutely fine. I'm not having a go. Now, I know I bang on about the side quests quite a lot in these videos, and I said at the start of this one, this is a very stationary side quest episode, but this episode highlights how badly they handle the characters this season. I mean, we kind of get focus on Adira picking up on the storylines from the last few weeks where she's not that confident and she's overcome it. We kind of get stories about Tilly not being confident and overcoming that. We get Rayner's trauma trek dump as always. We get Saru mentioned but not actually showing up, and we get a character like Nan coming back and not really doing anything at all either. Plus, Admiral Vance is in it and he's criminally underused this season. I mean, I don't know what this show's thinking. And while this is all going on, Colbert has actually been sidelined this week, and Stamets, as always, is just in the background muttering about the progenitor technology and how it's really important. I guess he's the only one that knows that because no one else really talks about it. And while next week I'm sure is going to take us to the Badlands and we might see some things that we've seen before, I really hope that they don't bring back or reference the Maquis in any way or try and tie them into this. Because man, that would really finish me off. Now, I didn't mind this episode, as I said, it just wasn't particularly brilliant, it wasn't particularly terrible either. I would say 50-50 straight down the middle. But as always, I want to know what you guys think, so let me know in the comments below, or you can reach out to me on Twitter at The Geeks Reviews. Where do you think all this is going? What are we going to find in the Badlands, and who are they going to kill and resurrect at the end of the season? I want to know what you think, so let me know. And as always, if you've made it this far, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already, and leave a like on the video. And my name's Al, thanks for watching.